overcoming fear and anxiety, gaining confidence, public speaking, better preparation and practice, the power of storytelling. All this and more. Welcome to the High Achievers Club.
Hello and welcome to our live today. Yes, we are here every Thursday producing some amazing content to help you with your public speaking, your presentation skills. And today in our live, joining me and so we have the incredible Shannon and the amazing Harriet Bratt. Maybe even some more guests coming in to join us as we go through. So while we're doing the live, please do take a moment, check out everybody's profile, and you'll see how they can help, how they can support you to get more success in your career and in your business by getting your voice heard. Today, we are very much focused on the stories, sharing those experiences that we all have to help our audience. And to lead us through this, we have Shannon, the Faith Coach.
Hi, everyone. Andy O'Sullivan, you know we love you. You are amazing. Welcome to the High Achievers Club. We're streaming in multiple places. So just an FYI that you want to tune in and find out where they are. Yes. The reason you want to find out where they are is because you might have your favorite platform of choice. Tune in because we are everywhere. Yes, just like the wonderful Harriet Bratt. She's everywhere too. Like, where in the world is Harriet Bratt? Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Andy, I just appreciate the fact that we're here every week and we are contributing to people's lives regarding so many areas, especially public speaking. And when it comes to public speaking, I have a question for us. Are we telling our story? Because don't you know your story matters? It does. Sometimes we think that when we've gone through things that, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've gone through this. That is what we are saying when we're in the midst of it, right? And sometimes even when we get out of it, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got out of it. I can't believe such a thing happened to me. Some of those things could be really challenging and traumatic and really just downright depressing and despairing, right? This is the thing though. We made it through, or if we're going through it, we're going to make it through. And guess what we can do as a result of that story, of our experiences, our narrative, our testimonies? We can encourage other people. Someone has to go through something. If no one went through anything, if no one failed at anything, how would we know what success looked like? How would we know if what the steps were to climb the ladder? We wouldn't know, would we? We would have no measurement, no benchmark, no standard, no model for excellence. So we have to be able to look at our lives and say, what is the lesson in this? What can I teach somebody from what I've learned from it? So yes, our story matters. Yes, there's value in the story. There's glory in the story. Are you telling your story? Yeah. you have to tell it. This is the thing though. There's certain elements of storytelling and the significance of our why, if you will. And it's what I call my story umbrella. My story umbrella has 3 elements in it. But before I tell you what they are, let me tell you a little bit about my story. My story is one, just like yours, of challenge, some difficulty, some disappointment, a lot of victory as well. Yes, I was in the Air Force. And I loved it. I loved it. I got married in the Air Force. I had 2 kids in the Air Force, and life was pretty good. I loved the Air Force. It was a job for me. It was mainly when people ask me, "What did you do, Sharon?" I'm like, "I worked in wellness centers and fitness centers because the Air Force, like all the military, needs to be a fit force." So that's what I did. So I never had any problem with weight or anything like that. Even after my kids, I would get off the weight pretty quickly. So life was pretty good. So after a while, I decided, you know what? I want to try something different. So I decided to try something different and get out of the Air Force. So I was honorably discharged. And after I did that, I found myself second guessing everything. And I was actually divorced at the time, and I had two children. And I thought, what have you done? And I remember one day sitting in an apartment I had started to rent it after I was honorably discharged. And I remember just literally sitting against the wall. My back was against the wall. And I'm thinking, what have you done? You don't have any money. You got out of an environment that was comfortable, stable, and you made no plan. What were you thinking, Sharon? Have you ever felt yourself there, found yourself there? You made that decision, and it's almost as though you're looking at another person's life, and you're thinking, woulda, coulda, shoulda. So my back is against the wall, my knees are just up, and I'm looking out in oblivion, thinking, you have to wait for someone to give you money because you have none. I could barely pay my rent, even though I had a job when I got out at a great company. I was just starting there and it wasn't really enough. So I'm thinking, why did I just make such a rash decision? So I found myself really down. And I eventually ended up moving from California to South Carolina to be closer, to be able to at least drive home to New York where my family was. And I was socially, emotionally, and financially just at a deficit and a valley and a desert. I felt like no one got me. I didn't even get me. I felt like the worst mom in the world. So I get to South Carolina and all we had were our clothes. My furniture, my car was still in California because I made another decision of when I decided to get out of the Air Force. You had one move that they would pay for. I decided to have that move when I initially moved into my apartment, and I couldn't get another one, so I had no money to move. So here I am at my friend's house. I was able to live in her house for 3 months. Really great house, but after that, what what do I do? So I ended up moving into a decent area, a nice apartment, but we had nothing, nothing. And I'm thinking, Sharon, what are you doing? What have you done? And I made a full-time job in those 3 months of looking for a job. And thankfully, I got a decent job. So the money started coming in. The money started coming in. And although I was on a blow-up mattress with my boys, they were still happy. They really didn't know. Although life was different for them, it was more challenging for me to look at the life I had. But kids are so adaptable. They're stronger than us sometimes. So I decided, because it's a choice, that I would not suffer because of my mistakes. So I ended up in a great community of a great church that really helped me. I got another degree. I got a better job. I somehow miraculously passed 2 teacher tests. I don't know how. So I got certified as a teacher in 2 different areas. One was business and technology. The other one was exceptional kids, or kids with learning disabilities. And I became a teacher. I bought a house and lived there for 10 years. And when I moved to North Carolina, I bought another house. I sold that one, and I'm in the midst of buying another house. So, what I'm saying is that even though we make mistakes, we don't have to live in the past because I was doing that every night for years. What did I do? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I make that decision? And guys, I decided, and again, it's a choice that I didn't want to live there anymore. So one day, in the midst of all the ladder climbing, I decided to blog. And that was 2013. I decided to write a blog. I was in an airport or something at the time, and you know how you know how it is when we're speaking to strangers and we're telling strangers about our life. I was telling this stranger about my life, and the stranger said, I don't even know if it was a woman or man. All I know is that it was, when I say stranger, a person I didn't know at some type of somewhere I think it was at an airport, and I'll say if it was a she, and she said, "Well, why don't you start a blog?" And I was like, "Well, I've heard of them, but what do you think? Where should I go? Where should I start?" And she said, "Well, you could do this or that and Blogspot." I said, "Okay, I'll try Blogspot." In 2013, I started my blog, and this is the thing, guys. I called it In Sharon's Heart because I said to myself, Sharon, you have to start trusting people. I know you've been through some changes, but you have to start trusting yourself. You've asked for forgiveness, you've forgiven, and now you're on your journey to be whole. Are we ever whole? I don't know. Anyway, I started the blog. I started encouraging other women. I told other women what God had done for me when I was in the deep down valley, and that he could do the same for them. And they would have to put in the work. It doesn't matter. We have to, yes, we have to speak it, believe it, and put in the work of where we want our lives to be. So there I was. And here I am now. And I am helping other women speak with power. And so can you. So, yes, there's glory in the story. Yes, yes, yes. It doesn't matter where we've come from, it matters how we look at where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going. And we must have a positive outlook. I know that's easier said than done, but it could be true. It is true. It could be done. That's what I'm trying to say here. All right. So, guys, you have something in you that you can use to help people, and you're going through. What were the steps? Some people might say, well, Sharon, what how can I help anyone? I don't even know. I feel so ashamed of my story. I feel like even though I've been through something, it's not like oh, I've been through the valley and I climbed up the mountain. It's not sensational as other people. But you have a story. You've been through something. Were you the first one in your family who graduated from high school? Did you get through a financial setback? How did you bounce back after the divorce? Were you the one who was passed over for the promotion? How did you get over those things? How did you get over those things? I was just talking to a great, great friend of mine who had a challenge with his dog. That was a challenging moment, right? And that could be really discouraging. It was discouraging. That is a story of someone else who maybe is going through the same thing and who has the same emotions, even if it's not with a pet. See, the story is the great connector. So people started asking me, Sharon, how did you get through? How are you doing this? How do you do that? How do you keep showing up? How do you blog? And how do you do everything you're doing? So I thought, yeah, how do I do it? I never thought about that really. I was just level to level, right? And just trying to make the best life for my boys, who ended up graduating both from college, one with a finance degree and a German minor. Yes, he speaks German. And then the other one with a religious studies major. Yeah, so they both graduated from great schools. So I'm telling you, you don't have to despise humble beginnings. So when people started asking me, Sharon, how do you do it? How do you do it? I thought, okay, let me really think about this thing. And I decided or discovered that I really had these three elements that I call my faith model. I also call, well, I'll put the faith model aside, but I'll talk to you about my story umbrella. My faith model, yes, is that we have to really speak faith. We have to believe God for what we want, and we have to make it work. We have to do the work. There's no sense saying it and believing it and not doing anything. So that's my faith model, right? That's for another day. I want to talk to
I want to know.
Okay, I can talk about that later if you like. But I want to talk to us about the story umbrella. Yes, because remember, your story matters. What is your story? You have to tell people what happened. But these are the criteria, if you will, the elements of telling people what happened. All right. Okay. So the first thing under the umbrella of the story is that we have to have a desire. Number one is a desire. What is your desire? What is your want to? Why do you want to tell the story? Do you even want to tell the story? If not, don't tell that story. Tell another story that you want to tell. Don't let anyone shame you into telling it, telling you, convincing you. Don't even shame yourself. When people say, oh my gosh, Andy and Harriet, you've been through so much. It could be a movie, it could be a book. Tell that one. What if Andy and Harriet says, well, I don't want to tell that one. I'm good. I'm healed from it, but I have no desire to tell that one. Then don't tell that one. Tell the one you have a strong desire in your heart to tell. So that's number one. That element must be there because if it's not there and we're not healed by something that we are not really interested in talking about yet or at all, then we're going to be really healing from the stage, the quote unquote stage, the proverbial stage, whatever that looks like. And I don't believe in counseling or healing from the stage. I think we need to be as whole and delivered as possible. So make sure we want to tell it. So that's number one. Number two, ensure we got the victory. We were successful. We had positive outcomes and the results of it. So we can tell the story from a position of power. It doesn't matter how sad the story started us and the different points. We can just use bursts of energy in the story and positivity. That's one way to tell it. So many different ways to tell it. Or you could just model your story after someone you like, and keep your own secret sauce and your special seasonings. Don't try to imitate anyone else. We just have models in life. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay. But if your story is extremely traumatic, what you can do is just as I said, just have sparks of brightness, because at the end of the day, or even the beginning of the day, our story is to make people better, not worse, to empower people, to encourage people, to uplift people. And that is really, really important, because we want society to be better. We want to contribute to our community. So, number one, have a desire to tell your story. Number two, tell it from a position of power and victory and success. And number three, ensure that your story contributes to the overall message. My story of the Air Force, of when I was down, when I made a big mistake of getting out, is not about telling people to go or stay in the Air Force, to join or to leave the Air Force. That's not what it's about. That's not my message. It could be if I chose that, but I chose to tell it from a position of really, really making bad decisions and being really down, and having fear, and living in a position, in a place of being faithless, to living in a place of just being really, really fearless, right? And a position of faith where we can overcome anything. So when you your story contributes to your overall message, you need to find the connection and how it does that. You find that, and if it works for you and you can tie the story in to the overall message, then as well as we should, then we can really, really tell people we can have a message that's really, really clear is what I'm trying to say. And we can have a message that really, really conveys optimism and strength and brighter days for someone, right? But we have to find that connection. Why? Because Les Brown and Harriet, you say this quote often as well, and I love it. There's so much power in that, in his quote, when he says, never tell a story without making a point, and never make a point without telling a story. Otherwise, what is the why are we telling our story? We have to tie it in. So again, under my story umbrella, we have to have a desire to tell it. That's number one. Number two, we have to tell our story from a position of power, strength, and victory, success. And number three, we have to ensure that our story contributes to our overall message. So what is your story? What is your message? What is your why? There's glory in the story, and your story matters. It really does.
Yeah.
I'm Sharon, the faith coach. And yes, I'm always excited about just training women that we too have a place in the world and we can live in faith and freedom. Do you want to live in faith and freedom? You can. You really can. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to open the floor and I want to ask everyone who's watching, really delve deep if you need to and really find out what your why is and how you're going to impact the world with your life and your story, because your story was not for nothing. It was for something. Andy, Harriet, thank you so much. I want to ask you, why do you think a story matters? And if you can add to what I've already said, why does the story matter? And how can we really convey that message to people that they need not give up in life just because they went through a hard time? And they might even be going through a hard time now.
I think one of the importance of stories, is, and again, stories of experience, aren't they? Like you were sharing, something you've been through. And too often we're going through things in our lives and we can often think it's just me. I've got the bad luck. I'm the only one who's experiencing this and nobody can help me. It's just me. And I think if we can tap into what we've been through, and I notice the phrase that been through it. Again, you're not going through it, you've been through it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can tap into the experiences you've been through, where you've come out, you can now look back at that experience, what you've learned. And by taking that, you can then help people who are thinking it's just me, people who are thinking that nobody can help me. And sometimes we go through things and they can be quite lonely places to be in. And if we realize that there's people out there who have been through them and they've survived it, they've come out stronger, better, different, then I just think there's so much value in that. And they can be small things. They haven't got to be major things.
Right.
I mean, look at a little kid, for example, who can be upset because little Johnny wouldn't play with him, right? It's a big thing to that little kid, that little Johnny wouldn't play football with them. So there can be small things that we've been through that to others are big things. And it's realizing that, and the people we're going to be speaking to, tapping into their world, really understanding them, that we can then share those experiences that we have been through. So I'd encourage everybody to look inside and see what you've been through, how you can help people, and indeed how to make the world a better place, Sharon.
Oh, Andy, yes. When you said that people think it's just them, that it's just us who's going through it, that's what I thought when I was just alone in my thoughts. We have to be really careful when we're alone, because we have to really just change the mindset. And when those negative thoughts, I used to live in the past a lot. So now what I do is, speaking to that just me thought, that thinking, Andy and Harriet, is that I shift the mindset and say, positive things over my life. I'm making it, I'm beautiful, I got this, I'm doing this and doing that, and everything that's positive. Because it's not just you, it's not just us who's going through it. Not that we want anyone else to go through anything, but we're not alone. That's for sure. You are not alone at all. You never were. And then Andy, when you talked about lonely, because sometimes we think when we're going through it, we are alone. We're not alone, as I said, and sometimes we find ourselves lonely. That's a way I felt. I was alone. I felt lonely at the time. And if we're not getting help, if we're not around people, we could really live in that.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Andy, for bringing that up, because I want people to know that I wish I would have gotten help years before. I got help in the church, and the great thing about that was some of the people there were licensed psychologists and licensed counselors and things of that nature. So I was around lots of help. However, though, I wish I would have gotten it soon, as even before I got out of the Air Force. Because I had gone through some traumatic experiences there, where I lost, twin boys and 5 months in utero. And what I'm saying, guys, with that, you could get through that too. You can get through that too.
Yeah.
Don't let anything keep you down. And what I'm saying to that is that if anybody's going through that, let me just tell you this. I wish I would have gotten help right after that. I wish I would have. So what I'm telling you about that is not to keep you in any despair, not to trigger anything, but to ensure that you know that if you experienced it, if you are now, I got through it when I was down for years, and I didn't have to suffer for those years. You're not alone. You can get through it. All right. So thank you, Andy, so much for that. Okay, Harriet, the glory of the story, we know it's there.
We do, and I love that saying. There's glory in your story.
That's
But it has to be
story.
finished with Sharon's yes. Sharon, I feel like I'm having a little masterclass making notes here. Thank you so much. And of course, for Andy's addition as well there. There's actually a quote that I think was very relevant to something that both of you shared, that I'm almost surprised hasn't come up yet. I learned this from Andy in one of our sessions, and I use it all the time. I think it's so relevant. The story that you're sharing, if it's your personal story, and especially if it's about challenge and something you've been through, as has been said in different ways, you share from the scar, not from the wound. And again, that's something I took from the amazing Andy O'Sullivan, but it's just so powerful. And it's that reminder, we need to heal. And then, as Sharon said, shift to that space of victory, overcoming, a position of power to share that story. And I also wanted to just shift into, different types of stories. Again, as it's been said, stories are such great connectors. They're such a beautiful way to emotionally, mentally, even physically within that space, connect with an individual in a group meeting, in an event, online, in a training, wherever it might be. Stories are such a powerful connector. And stories also open people up to receive that message. So like Sharon said from the great Les Brown, never share a story without a point. Make sure that your story has that message of hope or whatever emotion is relevant to the story that you are sharing. And on that note, I thought something that might be helpful to add. When you're thinking, Sharon shared her story there, like, wow, can we take a moment? What a beautiful example of sharing from a position of power, victory, and the most relevant, powerful person to share a message of hope, a message of faith. So they were intertwined the entire time. We haven't heard Andy's story here today on this particular session, but if you look back at other replays we had, or when we used to be in Clubhouse together, we've also heard his story. People look at him today and think, whoa, you're a confident, amazing speaker. But Andy will very openly share that there was a time where he used to sit in board meetings and start getting anxious. He'd think of something that he wanted to say, but fear would take over. Now he's a 5-time best-selling author, world-known public speaker. So when we hear these stories, sometimes it's very easy to go, but I don't have a story like that. I haven't been through something like that, which is why I think it's so powerful that Sharon started to share then that it doesn't necessarily need to be something big. It could be something small that actually, as Andy said about that little boy, is huge to you. So I think a really powerful tip here is to share, whenever you share your story, you share a specific experience, but you bring in general emotion. Yes. So people might not have been through exactly what you went through, but they can connect through emotions because no matter what your beliefs are, we are human. Yes. We're having a physical existence. So we're going to experience all of those emotions. A couple of nights ago, I was on a webinar training and I shared a story about my dog. My dog jumping off a platform, going swimming. She launched herself off this pier. I don't know if your guys' dogs like swimming as well, but she launched herself off this pier. And I won't share the whole story now, but essentially, my husband and I started shouting, "No!" We could see her swimming back towards the bridge and we thought, oh, she's going to get stuck. She's going to be trapped. No! And we were shouting, "No! Go back! Go back, Feeks! Go round!" And sure enough, Feeks just kept swimming. And what we didn't know, what we couldn't see, was that there was a huge, great opening under this bridge. And she could just go straight through to the beach. It was a story about a dog, but I connected it to the, how many times in your life have you been told no? Someone didn't believe in an idea you had, something that you wanted to do. Maybe it was even yourself. You wanted to do something and your mind went, no, 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 sit down, be quiet. It's a story about a dog, specific experience, but connected to general emotion. So as Sharon says, you all have a story, and maybe right now you're healing or going through something and you don't feel ready to share your personal story. But perhaps you could start by sharing different experiences that you've had or that people you know have had. Because it's not, with love, it's not actually about your story. Yes, that connects with people. That gets people to know you. That builds that like, no, trust factor. But actually, the real gift of sharing your story is what it does for the person who is listening. That's what I wanted to add for now, beautiful Sharon.
Harriet. Oh my gosh, this is such a great discussion. Andy, thank you so much for what you do for people and creating the High Achievers Club. Yes, the people who are achieving high things and who want to achieve high things. That's what the club is about to me. I'm telling you, that's my thing. Okay, so we know Andy, we know your story. Andy, I would love in a few minutes if you could just tell us a little bit about that, your story of triumph as well. Harriet, listen, when you said the emotional connector, you know, we're always talking about that. And that's what our story is. So when we're on stage, as Harriet said, in so many words, what is, like, we're not talking to robots. What is it that we want to convey to the audience? The story is that emotional conduit. It's a reciprocal relationship, heart to heart. Yes. So that's why we tell the story. It's not for selfish gain. It's not look at me and look at what I've gone through. It's to encourage other people that, yes, you can get through it too. Yes, yes, yes. And yes, that wonderful saying from Andy, share from the scar, not the wound. The wound. That's it. Yes, the power of our voice. And you know, when you were speaking, Harriet, I was thinking, uh, just the outcome of your dog. Thank God, right? And is it she or he?
She,
She
Rafiki.
she was like, "I got this, mom and dad. I got it. I can see it. I can see it." Right? She saw the opening. She saw the vision. I think she would have turned back if she would have saw that it was a roadblock there, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what it was, guys. For that's what it is for us. We have to see the bright, open, vast space that we have for greatness, for greater, and that's what we're conveying to people. You know, when I was going through, when I had gotten to South Carolina, and it was so different than I ever knew because I went from New York to the Air Force to the world, right? And then to a really small town in South Carolina, which, by the way, is always my spiritual birthplace. So there's beauty everywhere. Yeah. Yes. This is the thing, though, when I was going through, one of the reasons I was so diligent and just going from level to level is because of really myself, yes, but my children. I said they didn't ask for this move for me to change their lives. So I was just really, really just grinding, and I like the word grind. I love the word hustle. I know some people don't. I love it. I think it connotes great things, so I use it. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I gotta get this, and I gotta get that. I even started working on a doctorate at one time because it was like, how can I improve our lives? How can I ensure that my boys have everything they need, not spoiled, everything they need, some of the things they want. And that's why I continue to climb. What is your why? What is your why? And I want to talk to the single mothers out there to let you know that you can do it. It's just mapping things out. Don't feel bad about your circumstances. You can do it too. You have a story in you, remember, and start mapping out. Yeah, start mapping out what you're doing right now, because that can become your framework. It really can. Yes, there's glory in the story, and your story matters. So, Andy, let's come back to you. Would you share your story? I think this is really becoming your signature story,
Yeah.
Andy, of when you made it through and how you ended up here.
Sure. So, and I found, one thought I came to mind, I'll just share first, if I may, is when we're sharing stories, the mindset can often be that it's a bit embarrassing. It's a sign of weakness. It's not something you should talk about in public. And yet, another thing I learned, and even from my professional background, that when you do share how you feel, so many people say, me too. So many people realize that it's just them. They think it's just them, right? So that's why I see, be more open, be more honest. It's not embarrassing. It's not a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of strength that you can share it.
Nice.
And when we do that, that's where we really get that connection with people. We get that heart-to-heart connection, which is, I think, the key whenever we are speaking. So, but to the point, well, for me, I've always been very shy and quiet. I've never liked being the center of attention. Years ago, I would never be on a live. My gosh, I in a million years, right? It wouldn't have happened. I never did a video. Wouldn't have done anything like this. So I look back at my old photographs when I was in school, when I was in Scouts, and I was always at the back. I was always in at the back. I would never want to be the center of attention. And so it came in my corporate career. I never wanted it. I used to hate it when people would speak to me in a meeting, because suddenly everybody looked at me, and I would just go red with embarrassment, suddenly at the center of attention. I would stumble and mumble out a few things and then quickly go quiet and look away and try and go back to my own little world. And if I did want to speak up in a meeting, I'd be sitting there for too long arguing with myself. Should I say that? What will they say? How will that work? Oh my gosh, I don't know if I should say that. They could laugh at me. They could do this. And I tell you, when I was having those internal conversations in meetings about whether or not I would share or not, generally one or two things would happen. Either by the time I decided, yes, this is a good idea, share it, the meeting had moved on. Right? So it's too late to now talk about it. If I started about something 5-10 minutes ago, it'd been crazy, right? And what happens so often? Somebody else would say my same idea, and people say, "Oh my gosh, that's so amazing, Sharon. We should do that. Why haven't we done that before? That's brilliant, Sharon. Oh my gosh!" Right? And that person will get all the credit. That person will got the opportunities. Because I found in my career, the people, I had the experience, I had the knowledge, but my new colleague who had that voice, that confidence to speak up, got that success. And that's why I had to start, and I use this force myself, because I didn't want to do it, force myself to start learning, to speaking up, to pushing myself, so that I could gradually be more confident. And then I love the fact that as I pushed myself to grow my public speaking skills and my confidence, first of all, that helped immensely in my career. Immensely. I started having a voice, started getting opportunities. I would never have been able to say, do this without taking that. But then the beauty is how it just spills out. Because you don't just get confidence with public speaking, you get confidence in life. And in so many ways now, my just confidence grew in my interactions with people, with family, with friends, with other professionals. So that's how we can grow one area of our life and get success in one area of our life, or we can just get it throughout our life. So it's a journey that I went on It's a journey I'm so pleased I went through. And now it's a blessing to be able to help other people on that same journey. And it's sharing that with people and say, so many people say, oh, me too, I feel like that. I get those palpitations. I get anxiety. But I thought it was me, because we just look at other people. And don't they all look so successful? Don't they all look as though they've got their life together? It's just me who has these problems, these challenges. And that's by sharing it, as we all do, Harriet does, you do, Sharon, that we realise that by sharing our stories, there's so many people that we can help and help them get that same success, Sharon.
Wow, Andy. Yeah, so many nuggets and what you and Harriet are saying here today. I just want to encourage everyone who's watching now, who's watching on the replay. You guys have to tune in every week, because I'm telling you, these are the things that are helping me as well. And it's about just sharing our lives with someone. I used to live in fear of sharing my story, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, which is another form of rejection. And I think, Andy, it was the same for you, and so many words as well. Andy, when you said you enrolled in a speaking course or training, that's really what helped you? Is that?
In fairness, going on those was scary for me, right? I would be thinking, the first time I did one, for example, by lunchtime, I wasn't looking forward to it. It was out of my comfort zone. And I would be lunchtime, be thinking of reasons why I shouldn't go tonight. It's an evening event. Why shouldn't I go? I was tired, I'm busy, I've had a long day. And I would come up all the reasons in the world not to go. And then I got a bus from where my office was to where this course was. And every time we went past a couple of stations, and every time we went past a station, that little voice said, oh, you could get off. Why don't you go home? You've had a long day. Go home, get some pizza, get some wine. You'd like that, wouldn't you? I said, yeah, I could get off. Nobody, no. And every time that little voice kept shouting, I should get off, and it got louder. And then even when I stood outside that venue for the first time on a public speaking course, I had a pounding heart, I had sweaty palms, I had all those symptoms, and I hadn't even gone into the venue yet. That's how anxious I was. And as it turned out, that was a public speaking course where you didn't speak in public, which is crazy, right? But that's that's some of the strange public speaking courses I signed up to, where I was just looking around for things, right? Whereas they weren't that great, right? We did a lot of breathing exercises and other strange things. We didn't speak in public. So it took me a while to find the right training, the right courses, the right mentors to help me to build that confidence up. But even by going along, again, it helped me push myself out of my comfort zone to go into that room. As you say, from lunchtime, I was scared. I was petrified walking in. But again, it gradually got easier going to these events, taking action being the key, Sharon.
You know what? What I love about this, Andy, is that you made a choice to start somewhere.
Exactly.
And even though you might have started small, you started. And that's what it's about, starting somewhere. And some of us are afraid to start. But Harriet, you started where you were. Andy, you started where you were. I started where I was. Even though we started from a low place, it just, things kept getting better and better and better. So the confidence comes into doing. And then finally, Andy, you said that people are embarrassed about telling their story. That's what it was for me, right? Oh my gosh, what are people going to say? They're going to laugh at me. When we get out there, the strength comes in the story. We get more confident. The confidence comes in the story. Harriet, that's what I heard from listening to you so many times, that the confidence comes into doing. And we know, Andy, you as well. So I just want to thank you again, Andy, for setting up this space. Harriet, always being so diligent and just coming and with that warrior. Yes. Yes. And I just want to, yes, that's what, listen, everyone who's listening, everyone who will listen, get that je ne sais quoi. I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but anyway, that special sauce, your seasoning, what is that thing you have about yourself? Bring your A game. You got this. I'm telling you, you have something special in you. And we wanted to talk about this today, as we always talk about great things every week that's going to really encourage you to go forth and just being you and start low. Don't despise humble beginnings. It's okay, because Les Brown says, if you can look up, you can get up. All right, back to you, Andy.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah.
What amazing gems have been dropped by Sharon today. So big thanks to Sharon and incredible Harriet for being with us. Do check out their profiles, see how they can help and support you on your journey as well. So if you've got any questions, even if you're watching on replay, please do post them below, any comment, and we will address them on the next live, or maybe reply to them if we can help you as well. But that is what we're all about, helping and supporting you. We're going to be back here next Thursday. We will look forward to seeing you on the live then. Until we meet again, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Take care, all. Bye-bye.
Andy.
Bye-bye.
Sharon. Big love to you all.